suppose we'll move on to the football action then. So I suppose we'll start by looking at the Kerry and Mayo match. So a huge result there from a Mayo perspective. It was Kerry 17 points, Mayo 119. Massive result there for Mayo. Owen McLaughlin obviously getting himself a goal. Brilliant displays from the likes of Ryan O'Donoghue, Jordan Flynn, James Carr, excellent as well. And Kerry beaten at home in Killarney for the first time in the championship since 1995, and just the second time that Mayo have beaten Kerry in the championship since 1996. So what a result and what a day for the men in green and red.
Yeah, and I was actually at the game, so I actually watched history in Fitzgerald Stadium, the first Kerry team to be beaten at home in the championship since 1995, and I was loving it. I really was. Brilliant win for Mayo yesterday. I actually thought it'd be a full house at Fitzgerald Stadium. Like a strange kind of an atmosphere. There was a load of Kerry supporter, obviously, but Kerry just didn't have anything to show about really. But Mayo, like, there wasn't much Mayo fans. I thought there'd be more, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, what a win for Mayo. And I thought they were superb. Like the midfield particularly. Dermot O'Connor, Matty Varan were brilliant at the high fielding. They were brilliant at driving up the field. Aidan O'Shea, brilliant in the forward line. Ryan O'Donoghue scoring 4 points in the first half, which was an absolutely incredible tally, and resulted actually in Jason Foley Dylan Casey being brought off at half time, and Kerry just didn't recover really. And when you look at the game overall, Mayo should have had about 5 goals. They really should have. They should have had 2 in the first 10 minutes, really. Like Dermot O'Connor hitting one straight at Shane Ryan. Then it was James Carr's turn. James Carr had another chance in the first half. They eventually brought it up with Owen McLaughlin. And I suppose there's a lesson for forwards in this as well, to drill the ball low rather than at goalkeeper height. That the Mayo players were always drilling it at Shane. It was a great save by Shane Ryan, no doubt about it. But they were always at the goalkeeper's height, very, very comfortable. But Owen McLaughlin comes on, speeds onto the ball, back of the net, bottom corner. What a finish. And Mayo won the game in the end. And yeah, brilliant victory for Mayo. Honestly, I thought Tommy Conroy would get the goal since coming on, but it was Owen McLaughlin. Pleasant surprise there, but brilliant win for Mayo. And it's a big victory for morale boosting as well, because you think about the criticism that was directed at Mayo by some forms of the media after the Roscommon game. It was pretty grim. And for Mayo to bounce back and get a win in Killarney, which was an outstanding achievement, brilliant win for them. But as for Kerry, the over-reliance of David Clifford, I'm sorry to say it, Aaron, from a Kerry point of view. 8 points yesterday. He got, I think, nearly 50% of the scores Kerry got from play were from David Clifford himself. So they're way too reliant on him, and they need other players to step up to the plate. But to be fair, Killian Spillane wasn't on the bench yesterday. I'm not sure why. Was he injured, or I don't know what was the story there. But if he came on, maybe he could have made a difference. But he didn't in the end. And Mayo won the game.
Yeah, and I suppose where do you think it went right for Mayo as well though? Because like they were like, it was a fairly dominant victory. Like, I know they won by 5 points, but like Kerry never led in the game. You know, Mayo scored the opening points. They controlled the game. They were always in front. There were moments in the match where Kerry started to claw their way back into it. But as we were saying, like Mayo were dominant in terms of their forwards. Like Jack Carney was excellent as well, like playing in behind the full forward line, and defensively as well. Like, I think I'm not too sure who you backed going into this game, but the main reason why I predicted Kerry to win this game was the fact that I looked at it and thought David Clifford, Paddy Clifford, Sean O'Shea, Tony Brosnan. Like, how is that Mayo fullback line, the inexperience of that Mayo fullback line, going to contain those forwards in the likes of Jack Coyne, David McBride, and Sam Callanan? But in fairness, they were absolutely brilliant. And like, I think Mayo, like, as much as you give the forwards credit, I think you need to give the defenders a lot of credit as well.
You definitely would. And it was actually, I actually backed Mayo during the week. I'll just put that in there. And I was probably the only podcaster to say it. So I need to pat myself on the back there. And brilliant. And I also said Aidan O'Shea would get the winning score in a 1 point victory, but he got man of the match instead. So, well, it's close enough. It's close enough, to be fair to me. But when you look at the defence, David McBride actually went on Clifford. And when Pádraig O'Hora's name got called out on the Tannoy yesterday, I thought instantly O'Hora's going after Clifford. And we're going to go for round 2 here. But it actually turned out McBride went on. And it was incredible to see that in a way. Like, Callanan was outstanding. Jack Coyne. I think Donegal McHugh both offensively and defensively was superb. I thought Conor Loftus was very good as well. Paddy Durkin didn't start, which was a pleasant surprise, really. I didn't see that coming at all, but it just showed Mayo have no more options in defensive terms. And you wouldn't have said that about Mayo teams in the last few seasons. So fair play to them for that. And not only defensively as well, the way the players worked for each other. Like in the first half, I was behind the goal that Kerry were scoring into. And in the first half, who did I see back there defending and doing his donkey work? Aidan O'Shea. You wouldn't have seen that in the past few seasons. And then in the second half, when Mayo were scoring into that particular goal, I had to look again because I couldn't believe it. David McBride was actually in the forward line. And I was like, seriously, is that number 3? And he was, and it was a brilliant, brilliant performance. They worked as a team. They looked fitter than Kerry. I just thought they looked, fitter on the field. And maybe the 6 weeks did Mayo good. And it didn't. Good fairness to them. I thought the kickouts for Mayo was a major aspect of them winning the game as well. Like Colin Reeve, he can pick out anybody. What an outstanding kick he has. And the midfield Mayo have, I'll say it again, Mayo have probably the best midfield in the country at the moment with Dermot O'Connor and Matthew Moran. Both in an attacking sense, running up the field and feeding the ball, they're absolutely outstanding. And probably the reason Aidan O'Shea got man of the match as well was for that goal for Owen McLaughlin. It was a brilliant finish by McLaughlin. But take it back, Aidan O'Shea was the guy to field the ball. And Mayo wouldn't have gone anywhere without that catch. He played it into, I think it was Tommy Conroy, did a bit of 1-2 with Owen McLaughlin back in the net. And that was finished the game in the end. So I think from 1 to 15, Mayo were absolutely outstanding yesterday. And Kevin McStay as well should be given huge credit.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Kurt says, looking at Mayo, I'd be very concerned that this is another year Mayo peaking too early, then it will not get it done when it matters because they have a bad habit of doing this recently. I don't know about that, to be honest with you. Like I think the fact that they had a long break, like they had that 6-week break, and I think that's done them the world of good, to be honest with you, because they had a few challenge matches. I think they played Tyrone, maybe another team as well in a challenge match. So like they were bang up for it coming into this. They looked sharper, they looked fitter. As you said, like, maybe Kerry went too strong against Clare, like, because Kerry looked a lot sharper and fitter in that match than they did in this game, in fairness. Rommel says here, Mayo fans didn't travel. They couldn't find accommodation due to the government filling Killarney with illegal economic migrants. GA attendance are failing due to their policies. Yeah, I wouldn't know really about all of that, to be honest with you, but I'd imagine the ticket prices, the hotel prices. The hotel prices have gone up all across the country. In fairness, so maybe, but it was an early game. Like, was that what 3:00 was the kick? Was the throw in? So there would have been enough time, I'd imagine, for Mayo fans still to make it home. Albeit it is a long journey, in fairness, to do, and obviously your Stubbs don't really have to make too many journeys, so it's probably coming a bit rich coming from me. The Kerry team are the most overhyped team I have seen. They only beat a not so great Dublin team in the last kick of the game. It's an interesting point. I mean, it might sound a bit harsh, but when you actually look at it, they beat Dublin, who didn't have Con O'Callaghan, didn't have Paul Mannion that day, didn't have Jack McCaffrey, didn't have Cluxton. Like, it was a Dublin team that played very poorly on the day as well, in my opinion. Somehow dragged themselves back into the game with the goal from Cormac Costello. They had to beat Mayo in the quarterfinals when Mayo weren't at the races at all last year. And the Galway side, for as good as they are, they felt more like an up-and-coming team last year. Their first time playing in an All-Ireland final, I think, since 2001. So, like, is there anything behind that? Like, did we maybe buy too much into the Kerry hype last season?
Maybe so, when you think about it, because you look at their run to the final last year. Obviously, Munster was a write-off. In the quarterfinal against Mayo, they were facing a Mayo team that had injury problems. And you look back at that and think, yeah, that's kind of true there. And against Dublin, I thought Dublin nearly deserved to win it. Like, the game went on for another 5 minutes. I think Dublin would have won the game. Simple as. And against Galway, let's not forget, Galway were ahead at half-time. And Kerry needed a miraculous performance, especially from the man inside, David Clifford, to pull it out of the bag in the end. And it's an interesting point, actually. And someone has brought this point up to me as well. Jack O'Connor doesn't do 2 in a row. When you look at the history of Kerry GA over the last few seasons, when you look at his last All-Ireland victory in 2009, they went out the next year against Down and lost somehow in Croke Park in 2010. How that happened to this day, I don't know. I really don't know. You look at the history of Kerry, the recent history between the two, and you would have thought someone would have been crazy to say that result, but it did happen. And Kerry were out of the All-Ireland contention then too. So yeah, I think Kerry are a bit overhyped as well. Like, you look at even their scores yesterday, Clifford did the majority of it. And I think Kerry had to work harder for the scores rather than Mayo. Like, Mayo were picking off some beautiful scores yesterday, and it was almost effortless at times. But when you look at Kerry, Clifford basically carried them. Like, he took about, I think it was 3-4 shots near the 45-metre line. Some ridiculous angles, but of course Clifford's going to kick them over because he's that calibre of a footballer, and you don't know how he does it at times. But the other players, this is my point earlier, the other players for Kerry are not stepping up right now. Like, Sean O'Shea, fair enough, he does in some games. But you look at Paul Gainey, you look at Tony Brosnan, who didn't score at all yesterday, which is unthinkable. Stephen O'Brien on the bench isn't really getting a look in right now. Like, their midfielders aren't as prolific as the Mayo midfielders, for example, in Dermot O'Connor, Jack Barry. I don't think they're actually that good. So, in terms of the All-Ireland, I don't think Kerry will win it this year. I think Kerry fans should be incredibly worried about it. In terms of getting out of the group, I think they should be much better than Cork and Lowe. Let's be completely honest here. But for the All-Ireland, I don't think they're good enough this season. And it might be a tough fact for Kerry fans to accept, but it is a fact.
Yeah, because even the bench as well, as you said, like, they brought Adrian Spillane, Brian O'Buglock, Rory Murphy and Stephen O'Brien on, and none of them scored. And I remember Rory Murphy had an effort that went wide. Stephen O'Brien had one that went wide late on. Like, it's mad because we used to associate Kerry with a team that had a very good panel. Like, they had the likes of, Killian Spillane, who would come off the bench, Adrian Spillane. You were thinking maybe someone like Paul O'Shea or Paul Walsh will maybe get in the panel and make an impact coming off the bench. But those lads don't seem to be in the panel. And for whatever reason, Kerry just don't seem to be getting enough sort of from the rest of their forwards. Like, Paul Gainey's obviously been around, quite a while now. He scored 3 points, and to be fair, I don't think he had a bad game, in fairness. But aside from him, and obviously David Clifford, who had an exceptional game, like, Sean O'Shea was fairly anonymous for large parts, and I don't know if Kerry's panel is all that compared to the likes of Mayo, Dublin. I know Dublin have been very inconsistent in terms of performances, but you look at the panel of players that they have, you would have to say it's stronger than Kerry's panel.
You would definitely think so. I was looking at the benches yesterday and looking at the two of them at half-time particularly, and I was thinking, Mayo have a better bench here. Paddy Durkin, Stephen Cohen were named on the bench yesterday because they were, late changes. Pádraig O'Hare was initially named on the bench yesterday. Tommy Conroy was there. Jason Doherty. These are brilliant footballers. Like, you look at Paul Towie as well. Paul Towie didn't even get a minute on the pitch yesterday either. So yeah, I think Mayo have a much better panel, much better bench than Kerry do at this particular moment in time. And I just wonder, I think one of your comments said this as well. This might be a bit overhyped from Kerry. You just think, like, take Clifford out of it. If you just take David Clifford out here, I think of Kerry are very, very ordinary. Very ordinary. And even when you look at, I know people point towards, and I think you've pointed towards as well yourself in previous videos, on why Kerry could be successful is their minor success from 5 in a row. But when you look at their minor success, particularly in 2017, for example, David Clifford scored most of their scoring, for example. Like, if David Clifford wasn't on the pitch in the Munster Championship against Cork, Cork would have beaten. This was a Cork team with Colin O'Mahony, Mark Keane, all them players. They would have beaten Kerry. There wasn't much in the Kerry team other than David Clifford. And even in the games against, say, Derry in the next few rounds in the All-Ireland series, Kerry would have struggled without David Clifford's influence. He's just a freak of a footballer. If you take him out, I think Kerry are very, very ordinary. It might be an unpopular opinion, but I think I'd agree with your commenter there. I think Kerry are a bit too overrated after their win last year, and I think David Clifford is a brilliant footballer, but there isn't brilliant footballers around him. So that's a worrying sign for Kerry.
Yeah, like, and I think the likes of Sean O'Shea, like we know how good he is. In fairness, like, and if you'd expect him to click into gear in the later parts of the All Ireland series, and even the likes of Tom O'Sullivan, Gavin White, these lads, like, they do have a lot of great players other than Clifford, but I feel like a lot of them maybe haven't performed, and maybe some of the fringe players haven't really been able to make an impact for Kerry as well. Tom says the Rossies game was not a fair reflection on us. It was a week after winning the league title. Come on. That's not right. Yeah, probably, and I think it showed. Like, I think Mayo probably had, a lot of intense games, one after another. And, you could argue, like, if there's probably not much, because you look at Galway playing a lot of matches and obviously winning the Connacht Championship, like, it's probably nearly better to actually not win the Connacht Championship, possibly. Like, if Mayo do go on to do something special later on in the year. The other game, I suppose, from the group stages was Galway, 16 points, Tyrone, 13 points. Tyrone obviously played with 14 men for the majority of the match after Frank Burns was sent off. Good win for Galway. I mean, not a great game, to be honest with you. Conditions were very tough, obviously, in Pearse Stadium. I thought Tyrone actually played well, considering they were down for 14 men. They were down to 13 men, actually, at one stage after Noel Morgan got black-carded, and Peter Hart was even playing in goal. So, like not the worst result in the end for Tyrone. Like, I thought they played well, but Galway just done what they've done all year long. Is they just keep grinding out wins, even when it's not the most entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Power Joyce mentioned in the post-match interview, Galway were very, very poor yesterday off colour. But the main thing is about Galway, they still won it. They still won the game with playing poorly, and that's a positive sign for them, but largely down to the red card for Frank Burns. Look, it's a topic of a discussion for up and down the country in both hurling and football, the head high challenge. They don't seem to be given in hurling, for example, but they're given in football. And we go back to referees and stuff like that, but we need a bit of consistency at the same time. Like, if Ronan Maher doesn't get sent off against Cork a few weeks ago, why is this a red card? It's very, very inconsistent from referees of both codes over the last few weeks. And even the Doyle Morgan black card as well for complaining. And then the Galway players, I think Shane Walsh was one of them, Combe or maybe another, was complaining before the Frank Burns red card as well. So why didn't they get shown the line?
Yeah.
It's very, very poor, I think, very poor officiating in regards to Tyrone's point of view. But for Galway, look, it's a win. They'll get out of it. They didn't perform well yesterday in poor conditions. But look, it's the All-Ireland group stage. They have Westmeath in the next few weeks. And despite the fact that David Brady said Westmeath might make it out against Armagh Tyrone, which I found a bit comical, to be honest with you, Aaron. No, I think they should be fine. I think Galway Tyrone should be fine anyway. And look, it's the same for Mayo and Kerry, really. It's about building momentum in these games. The fact that there's the safety net of only 4 teams being knocked out, that's the big thing. There was more onus on the next 2 games we're going to discuss these games. And a lot of people said that during the week as well. So, look, I think Tyrone, Galway, they'd be relatively happy, but I think the main thing was the conditions and the decisions, obviously.
Yeah, no, I think so. Like, and as you said, like, I mean, I know Westmeath caused a major shock in hurling and beating Wexford. And I think David Brady would have been laughed out the gate even more if he had predicted that. So you never know in sport, you never know in football and hurling sometimes. But I think it would be one shock too many for the Westmeath men, I think, if they were to take any points off of Armagh or Tyrone, in fairness. But yeah, I suppose moving on then, we'd Sligo 14 points, Kildare 14 points. A game that went, I suppose, neck and neck throughout. Could have went either way, go down the home stretch. And for Kildare, massively disappointing result for them. I mean, like, I suppose after the performance that they gave versus Dublin and how well they played against Dublin, you would have expected Kildare to go away to Markovich Park and get the victory. But apparently it was too familiar for Sligo. They're too used to playing there. The home ground favours them massively. And that's the reason why Kildare haven't won this one. I just have to throw it in there.
Jeez, like, you had to say that. You really had. We wouldn't be a GA Fan TV podcast without you slagging off Kildare for him.
I don't think I'll be allowed into Kildare at this point. I think if I'm ever around Maynooth or any of these areas, I think I might have to, I don't know, wear a balaclava or something.
But at the same time, yeah, like it's a brilliant analogy, to be honest with you. Like yeah, the seats were probably too rocky for the Kildare bench players as well, and they didn't get the result. That was why. But all jokes aside, look, in fairness, like I seen Patrick Sharkey predicted a draw on your podcast. Fair play to Patrick.
Yeah.
Very good with the prediction. Jeez, like and I feel like he's getting better at predictions now. Fair play
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Patrick.
I think what he does is he comes out with one mad prediction he comes out with loads of mad predictions, and one of them every year comes true. So he's got that one ticked off now anyway. So
Yeah, and even madder, actually, Jason predicted on my podcast that Sligo would win the game, and I was like, "What?" I thought, Jesus, like that's mad. I thought Sligo would go up to Kildare like they did today, but I just thought Kildare, this was a big opportunity for them to win today, and like you look at the next few weeks, they've Roscommon and Dublin. And if they get a few tankings off them and Sligo manage to stay in the game, which they will do over the next few weeks, Sligo could find themselves in the preliminary quarter final. And Kildare will be
yeah,
absolutely kicking themselves. After all the comments about Dublin and Croke Park, I think I like Kildare as a county. I do like them. I like Johnny Doyle. I like Dermot Early, especially that team in 08-09. It was a legendary team in my books. But the way Glenn Ryan conducted himself after that Dublin game, you'd be the whole country would be just kind of laughing at him, to be honest with you. And even, like, I know people criticise Dublin, but that was just a remarkably bonkers opinion, to be honest with you. But look, they couldn't even beat Sligo today, so that's their level. That's their level, Kildare. And yeah, it was a poor result for them. But for Sligo, what a result for them, in fairness to them. This was their second game this season against the top two division side, and they got the draw. So fair play to Sligo for that. And Sligo, there was a lot of commentary about them saying that the Tailteann Cup would have been better for them, but it turns out this is a good competition for them because the players are going to be improving. The under-20s are excelling. The schools are excelling. The minors are excelling. So Sligo football's on the up, and if Tony McEntee stays on as manager as well for the next few seasons, I'm telling you, the Sligo football is on the up, and this was another step in the right direction today.
absolutely. Yeah, no, it was a huge result for Sligo, in fairness. And Noel Murphy scoring 6 points, Sean Carabine with 4. Seeing Pat Spillane Jr. he didn't come on until the final 20 minutes. So yeah, very impressive stuff from a Sligo perspective. And again, I think it shows that they are closing the gap a little bit on some of the teams above them. In my opinion, and yeah, because when you look at Sligo, like they're probably better set up as a defensive team, especially with their manager Tony McEntee having sort of set up that system. Obviously ex-Cross McGlenn player and everything else. So would you think like Sligo? Like I think it goes without saying that we'd fancy Dublin and Roscommon to both be Sligo and Kildare. And it kind of it's a bit bizarre, isn't it? That like there's going to be a scenario where one of these teams progresses without winning a game, possibly. In the group, which is a little bit bizarre, but like you'd fancy Sligo maybe to be a little bit better in those two games. Although Kildare did compete well against Dublin, and with the fact that game's in a neutral stadium, maybe they'll put it up to us this time, or maybe beat us this time. Who knows?
Or maybe the grass will be too long. So you don't know with Kildare. They might, like, if they lose to Dublin, they might make up an excuse saying, "Oh, this is a hurling ground. This was suited for hurling. So how could we win today?" It's incredible the excuses that Kildare will come up with. But they have to go out and perform against Dublin now. There's no point in crying or anything like that. They have to go and beat them. They had 2 chances in Croke Park to beat them. Not 1, but 2 chances, big chances to beat them. They didn't do so. So this is the chance to do it. And we'll see if they can do it in the next few weeks. They play Roscommon away from home in the Hyde. I don't expect them to win that. Sligo won't win against Roscommon or Dublin either. But I definitely agree with you that Sligo will probably have a lesser losing margin because Sligo are kind of team that will sit back and will try and frustrate the living daylights out of Roscommon and Dublin rather than Kildare, Kildare are a team that could go man on man and get destroyed. You don't know with Kildare what will happen with them in the next few weeks. But it is kind of bizarre on a side note that one of these sides, having not won a game, will progress to the preliminary quarterfinal. It probably just make a mockery out of the thing, if you know what I mean, Aaron. But look, that's the championship we live in, unfortunately.
Absolutely, yeah. Like and yeah, like congratulations to Sligo, obviously for getting that draw. I think David Quinn scored the late points. And yeah, for a Kildare perspective, like it's just like is the reality really that Kildare are just at the level now of sort of, because like when you look at Sligo, obviously promoted to Division 3, you'd imagine Sligo would be good enough to stay in Division 3, and Kildare were nearly relegated to Division 3 at some point. So is that just like, are these two sides maybe this isn't a big shock? Like maybe both of these two sides are at a similar level.
Maybe so. Like Kildare struggled in Division 2, so you could arguably say that both of these are Division 3 standard, if you want to say it that way as well. So, like both of these sides are probably level. Like Sligo are only in Division 4, let's be honest, because of the past few seasons, regimes and stuff like that. Not particularly last season, because like Tipperary had a bit of a purple patch, and Cavan are too good for Division 4 in general, and Sligo just couldn't compete with them last season, and they didn't get over the line. But this season they got over the line eventually. But that's because the likes of Niall Murphy have come back to the team. The likes of Paddy O'Connor, the likes of Pat Bland Jr. has been a great addition. You have younger players coming through as well, like the under-20s from last season. Luke Marin will be another player that's coming next season, probably Dylan Walsh, and probably Callus Mulligan and a few others as well from the under-20s. So Sligo football is on the up, and it would be only a matter of time before they catch up with Kildare on current form. But I stress on current form because Kildare's under-20s are going very well at the moment, and you have to feel they're going to win a Leinster title sooner rather than later. If they don't, you can't make excuses for that, to be honest with you. With all the under-20 talent coming through, Kildare should be winning under-20 in the next few seasons or so. But yeah, I think right now they're probably on similar paths, but like Kildare have more to kick on in the next few seasons, especially after winning 2 under-20s in the last 6 years.
Absolutely. I suppose moving on to the last game to discuss from the All-Ireland Championship, Clare 9 points, Donegal 14 points. Huge result there for Donegal. Obviously their first win of the season since the opening day of the league, when they obviously beat Kerry. From what I was hearing online, that Clare missed a lot of chances, a lot of opportunities. They led at half-time. But in fairness to Donegal, like they rallied late on. Kieran Thompson, Caelan McGonigal, Oisin Gallen all getting on the score sheet late on. I think Donegal outscored Clare, I think 6-2 in the final 10 minutes to go on and win the game. So big result for Donegal. I suppose it will take some pressure off the back of Aidan O'Rourke, and it will certainly, I suppose, ease the pressure of some of the players. But big win for Donegal, and I suppose for Clare, it'll be very tough for them now to get out of this group.
It would do, yeah. Like Clare really had to win this game, especially at home against a Donegal team that didn't win since January. It's kind of one that was kind of flushed away for Clare, unfortunately, especially being 6-3 up at halftime. But you have to give, I know Donegal have been terrible this season in games other than this, and we've criticised them on this channel, on my own podcast, and they've been terrible really in a few games. But 11 points from playing the second half to turn this around, and that's an incredible statistic from them. Fair play to Donegal for doing that. Oisin Gallen turning up, Kieran Thompson, very good performance as well. Hugh McFadden had a very good, even though there was a decision in the game that was quite controversial. Again, we talk about the head-high challenge. Why Frank Burns was sent off for Tyrone, and then Hugh McFadden wasn't sent off in this game. I don't know why, to be honest with you, and we go back to consistency and all that. That's a big thing amongst the GA at the moment. But fair play to Donegal for winning it. And for Clare, like it's interesting because Seamus Brady on Play on GA actually made the comment that Clare would be better in the Tailteann Cup. We got a fair bit of flack off Clare fans for that. But yeah, I'd actually say now, would they have been better off in the Tailteann Cup this season? Because like Colm Collins, realistically, I don't know what the contract situation is now, but he realistically might leave this season, if not this season, next season. For him not to win a trophy with Clare, not even a league title, well, he won a Division 3 title, but still, like, it's not much really. But not to win a national trophy of significance for that group of players, you know, it's sad, really. And I think that's the point that Seamus was trying to put across. And it's realistically now Clare going to be out of the All-Ireland because they're not beating Monaghan and Clonus. With that performance, particularly against Donegal, they're not. And against Derry, probably not either. And what I said in my podcast during the week was that if Clare actually, you know, got their shooting efficiency up unlike the Cork and Kerry games, they go on and win the game. But by the match reports and what you were saying there, they didn't. And that was the difference between the two sides. And maybe that's why Clare aren't up there with the likes of Donegal, Kerry, a Monaghan or Derry. That's particularly why, because they can't take opportunities at brilliant moments in the game. Like Clare had better players than Donegal. We were saying on loads of podcasts during the week, Clare actually player for player better players than Donegal do have right now. And that was a big chance to beat them. They didn't do it at home as well. So you'd have to question, would they have been better off the Tailteann Cup after all?
Yeah. No, and I think it's a fair point, and I would agree with Shay as well. Like I think, yeah, like obviously the Clare team and the footballers and players and everything else, they want to beat Cork. They want to prove that they are all Ireland level. And in fairness, I think they've done enough in Division 2 in the last couple of years, and they've competed well against some of the top teams to show that they are, they are good enough to play at this level, in my opinion. But I think the point is more so that if they were in the Tailteann Cup, they would probably, they'd be one of the favourites to win it, in my opinion, if not the favourites. And I think, could you imagine a situation where, the Clare hurlers are playing in an All-Ireland semi-final, and maybe you have it as a double header with the Tailteann Cup, depending on, what obviously you want to make sure all fans be able to attend. But I think it would definitely be a great occasion and great exposure, in my opinion, for Clare football. I suppose we'll have a look at some Tailteann Cup results. So what I'll do is I'll just share my screen here just so we can actually have a look at some of the results from the weekend and some of the talking points from some Tailteann Cup games. So as we can see there, it was a good win for Meath, beating Waterford 3-17 to 1-14. Only 9 points though against a team like Waterford. You probably would have imagined Meath would have beaten them by more, but fair play to Waterford for actually competing quite well. And then it was down to 18. Tipperary 6 points. I mean, yeah, like Tipperary football unfortunately has regressed massively over the last couple of years. 2 results we expected. Like, any thoughts there? I mean, grim viewing for Tip fans, I'd imagine, and for any Tip fans who were at that game, I'd say probably the majority of them left early.
They probably did. Well, they couldn't leave early because the hurling was after that. So
it was actually, was it?
Yeah, they probably arrived. They probably arrived late. Probably, last minute. They're like, "Oh, the footballers are losing. What's the point?" But no disrespect to the Tipperary footballers, but they've gone way back over the last few seasons. And I actually predicted Waterford would beat them in Munster. You know what? In the podcast in the next few weeks, I actually might predict it again. See what happens. We'll see if they do beat them this time. But to get third place in the group, let's not forget. So, yeah, it's a disappointing defeat for Tipperary. Down or just on a completely different level. Enough said about that game. The better. Waterford against Meath. Apparently, Waterford missed a load of chances in this game to capitalise on Meath. And yeah, like if Meath are going to be this close to Waterford, no disrespect to Waterford. No, I know Aoife Fitzgerald's doing a brilliant job there. But if Meath are not going to trounce Waterford, unlike what they did on Saturday night, I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the Tailteann Cup, if I'm honest, Aaron. And yeah, that's a worrying sign for Colin O'Rourke and his players over the next few weeks. And yeah, I think he's a great speaker, Colin O'Rourke, for speaking up to Donegal particularly, but as a manager, maybe not so.
Yeah. And like I was hearing that Meath had a hugely changed side. Like even looking at some of the names there, like Aaron Lynch, Owen Frayne, these lads, like not familiar names. So I think there was a lot of changes in the Meath side, but as you said, like it wasn't, but again, it's one of them where Meath are probably just trying to save themselves for the down game and some other matches, in fairness. And this game was probably always a formality, in fairness. I suppose looking at the games from Group, I think I skipped Group 1 by accident there for some reason, but we'll come back to Group 1. London 2-6, Cavan 18 points, comfortable result there from a Cavan perspective. And Laois 1-11, Offaly 1-11. I mean, Laois getting themselves a draw there against Offaly, which was a little bit of a surprise considering Laois languishing around, mid-table in Division 4, and Offaly, very close to getting to a Leinster final. So maybe a slight surprise result there.
Maybe so if people didn't watch the Laois and Cavan game last week. But thankfully, I did watch the game last week, and I thought Laois were superb. I thought they were in the first half. I thought they were, they have players there, Mark Barry, Kieran Lillis, Evan O'Carroll are excellent footballers. And Laois looks like they deserve to win here. Very, very or deserved a draw rather. Very, very good result for them. But Offaly, all's not lost. Like they'll probably get third in the group, second in the group list, to be honest here, or even third place side. So it isn't all doom and gloom. As for Cavan, I think London were actually close in the first half, but other than that, look at Scorpio anyway. But other than that, Cavan were comfortable winners in the game, and London will be targeting Laois next week. But at the same time, that's going to be a difficult game for London. It's on in a neutral venue, so who knows where that'll be on the sea.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Maybe play it at Anfield or something of that nature, or maybe I actually don't know. Yeah, it'd be very interesting. I don't think there is a neutral ground that won't favour Laois. In fairness, but there we go. I suppose moving on to Group 3, big result there for Limerick. Back-to-back wins for them now, so it seems like they've brushed the cobwebs off from earlier in the year. As you see there, 119 to 14 points. James Naughton with 7 points. Paul Maher on the goal sheet as well, and you can see a whole list of other scores there from a Limerick perspective. And big result here for Longford, beating Wicklow 3-17 to 2-9. When you think Wicklow coming up from Division 4, Longford going down to Division 3. I did have a few Longford fans on to me who were saying we might have got beat by Limerick last week, but we actually played quite well. We actually competed very, very well, and a lot of Longford fans were actually quite confident going into this game. So big result, and maybe Paddy Christie is finally getting a tune out of Longford, and big win this.
Huge win, and it's kind of baffling how Wicklow have fallen really in the last few weeks. Like we were talking about them in the Division 4 final as being probably a team to watch in the Tailteann Cup, but yeah, it was a damning result for Wicklow, and it's amazing actually how one result can derail a county season. Like you look at the Carlow game last week, Wicklow conceding, I think it was 5 points at the bounce in the last few minutes. That was a deflating defeat. And then to lose to Longford like they did. Longford have good players, there's no doubt about that, and Paddy Christie is a good coach. But that's a difficult defeat to take for Wicklow there. But as for Limerick, yeah, the Limerick footballers, they're going to win the Tailteann Cup. Well, yeah, I hope they do. I hope Limerick win the Tailteann Cup. But we'll see what happens. Like they have a good team at the moment. They probably have a team similar enough levels to maybe Division 2, Division 3, bouncing around them kind of places side. So like there's every possibility that Limerick could win the Tailteann Cup this season if they have the belief there. So yeah, I think Limerick, after Ray Dempsey left, have actually been on decent enough form in terms of performances.
Yeah, no, they definitely have, like back-to-back wins, and definitely seems to be a bit more togetherness in the Limerick group, which is good to see. And as you said there about Wicklow, like surprise defeat, and that's actually them out of the Tailteann Cup as well, because they're head-to-head with Longford and Carlow is obviously gone, and they obviously can't catch Limerick either. And Longford and Carlow are playing each other on the final day, so it will be impossible for Wicklow to finish above fourth. Last couple of games to run through here. Wexford 14 points, Antrim 2-15. Big win for Antrim. That's them all but secure now in terms of finishing in the top 2. And then Leitrim getting beat by Fermanagh 119 to 2-7. You can see the scores on the screen there. Ryan Lyons with 1-5 there for Fermanagh. Quite an impressive tally from him. And Sean Quigley with apologies there, folks. I really need to get on to someone about this internet. But we're on my phone here, unfortunately, so we've gone completely rogue. Definitely need to get onto air at this stage. I don't know what is going on. Like the internet never goes in here, but for some reason it seems to keep going. When I'm doing these streams, I don't know if someone's trying to hack in or something, but yeah, as I was saying there, like Antrim, big win for them. They're motoring well under Andy McEntee, in fairness, and good win for Fermanagh.
Very good win for Fermanagh, yeah. And I thought it'd be a tough game for them against Leitrim, but Leitrim, they seem to be on the down, unfortunately, after losing to New York. Like, one result again, like Wicklow, how can derail your season? And Leitrim, it seems that way at the end. But yeah, it was a good win for Antrim actually against Wexford, and for the second week running, I actually predicted against Antrim. So that's come with egg on my face again. But yeah, they might be, Fermanagh might beat them at the last game, so it's all good. But like at the moment in the Tailteann Cup, you have, I think it's Cavan, Down, Limerick, and Antrim already through to the quarterfinals. So like, it's a decent enough group there. If you disregard Antrim, like you look at Limerick, Down, and Cavan, you'd have to say they're the three favourites to win the Tailteann Cup this season.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, a huge win nonetheless for Antrim and for Fermanagh as well. I suppose in terms of player of the week and moment of the week, what are we thinking?
Player of the week, I'd probably go Matthew Moran for Mayo. I thought he was superb in midfield, feeding the ball, driving up the field. I thought he was superb in for Mayo. I thought Aidan O'Shea was very good as well, and Ryan O'Donoghue. So basically any in the Mayo team, but I'll give it to Matthew Moran. And moment of the week, it's very slim pickings, to be honest with you. I'd have to probably go Donegal for winning their first game since January. I know Donegal are a Division 1 team by trade, but it was still a very good victory and an important one for the men up north.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I think in terms of moment of the week, yeah, Antrim's win was obviously huge. I think Mayo turning over Kerry was a huge moment as well. I think player of the week for me definitely has to be Aidan O'Shea. I thought he was absolutely outstanding, in fairness. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap this up here before my internet decides to completely cut out again. Definitely getting on to air now. I think enough is enough now. I've had enough. I'm making a stand. So, but yeah, Matthew, cheers very much for coming on. And yeah, thanks to anyone who tuned in. We recently hit 4,000 subscribers as well. So great milestone. So yeah, very much appreciate anyone who's been tuning into the show. And yeah, if you could hit the like button and subscribe, make sure to check out Matthew's podcast as well, the GA Statsman podcast. Make sure to check that out as well. And yeah, cheers, Matthew, for coming on. And cheers, anyone who tuned in.
Thanks, everyone.